Hello, I'm Fast Lawyer. Today we are going to review the Seventh Guest VR. It released for all major VR platforms on October 19th, 2023 by developer Vertigo Games. It is a remake of the classic supernatural mystery puzzle adventure game. It normally retails for $29.99. I bought this game from a third-party site. I tested this game out on the Meta Quest 2 and 3 using link cable on my RTX 3080. It did take me a little less than 10 hours to beat the game. However, I did go at a slow pace trying to take in all the atmosphere, and I would estimate it would take most people 8 to 10 hours to beat the game, assuming you're not using any of the coins to auto solve any of the puzzles. Now, there is a lot of narrative here, but this is a puzzle focused game, and that's really the core of the experience. If you enjoy classic puzzle games, you might enjoy this. The reason I say might is because personally I did find the puzzles to be casual level difficulty, so I would say this game is definitely not for puzzle veterans or puzzle pros. None of the puzzles were really challenging. I did get stumped for a few minutes maybe on a couple of them, and I did end up using the hint system, but really the puzzles were very straightforward. Most of the challenge was actually just figuring out where the puzzle was or which one you had to do first. I believe all but one of the puzzles were self-contained, meaning that you go into a room and you'll have 2 to 3 puzzles to solve, and then you go on to the next room. There is no inventory system. The puzzle logic is just for that one puzzle. You solve it and then you just take a few steps, go to the next puzzle, take a few steps, go to the next puzzle in that room, and then you're done with the room and you never have to go back. A new room will automatically unlock and you'll just have 2 or 3 puzzles in that room as well. And it goes so on and so forth until the very end. And you even have a map that'll tell you exactly where you need to go, tell you which rooms you've already completed, which ones are unlocked. Really, the hardest part is finding that new room on the map. And you also have a hint system. You get 2 hints for each puzzle. I honestly regret using the hint system. I shouldn't have. Some of them almost just pretty much gave you the answer, and some of them were just too vague and didn't really help. And like I said, I never used a coin to auto solve. Hopefully none of you do that. Don't ruin the game for yourself. The good news is that there was a huge variety of puzzles. Unfortunately, like I said, they just weren't very challenging. So I would say definitely this game is perfect for puzzle beginners or casual gamers. It's impossible to get totally stuck because you always have coins, and coins are everywhere to auto solve those puzzles, and all the puzzles were straightforward. And for the most part, this is a pretty polished AAA production. It is a big house with several stories and many rooms to explore. There's a lot of attention to detail in all the rooms. It's got a great atmosphere as well. There's a lot of notes to read to get a little bit of the backstory. And like I said, this is a narrative driven experience, so it has lots of voice actors, lots of different characters. Unfortunately, due to all the characters, the story, especially at the very start, can be a little convoluted. I think maybe midway through the game is where finally the story starts making sense, and the story does end up being enjoyable. But keep in mind, this is a pretty campy, very theatrical story. It's definitely B-side murder mystery trash film noir novel, so if you enjoy that, I think you'll enjoy this story. And that's why it's so difficult for me to judge all the different voice actors in this production, because it is supposed to be theatrical and their performances are a little bit on the hammy side. They're basically acting like they're on a dinner theater production. I think part of it's that they want to pay tribute to the original classic, but the problem is this is an acquired taste and not everyone's going to appreciate this type of acting or this type of storytelling. Seventh Guest VR is running on the Unreal Engine. On my RTX 3080, I was getting a steady 90 frames per second on high graphical settings with super sampling set at 110%. And the good news is there's a bunch of settings here: graphical, sound, locomotion, comfort. You do have full locomotion along with teleportation, smooth and snap turning available. You can choose dominant tan. You can choose to play seated or standing. This game has a very generous auto checkpoint system where it basically saves any time that you solve anything. I did not experience any serious issues or bugs. However, there were a few annoying things that I do want to bring up. The biggest thing is that the VR interactions were not always as smooth as they needed to be, especially when trying to solve a puzzle. For example, when I was trying to solve the piano key puzzle, when I would hit the piano key, I would usually hit more than just one key, which would ruin the solution, and this was the case for several of the puzzles. The other big issue is that whenever your body collides with like a wall or an overhead object, your screen goes black, and that happened more than a few times and it was very frustrating. Now, overall, I do recommend this game. I did enjoy playing it. I think it's a very solid VR puzzle game. However, I don't think it's in the top tier of VR puzzle games. I think it's a notch below. So games like The Room VR or Red Matter 1 or 2, I think, are a notch above. But, you know, this is just a notch below. The production values here are pretty high. You do have a big mansion that you can explore. The visuals here are good, but I wouldn't call them great. Some of the textures just weren't as high resolution as I was expecting, and just the visuals were not as realistic as I was expecting. The atmosphere though was great, along with the musical soundtrack. The mansion itself does feel like an old haunted house that you're exploring. It's super creepy to explore, and it's like a character of its own. The 3D holographic character models also give it that extra special creepy feel to it. It's almost like you're surrounded by the ghosts of this haunted mansion. So if I have to rate it, I would give it a very good, very solid 7.5 out of 10. I think you are getting good value for your money, not just because it's 10 hours long, but because of the high production values here. The puzzles could have been more challenging, and the story could have been less campy, but this is a very unique experience that I would say is almost a can't miss for VR, especially if you are a classic puzzle adventure fan. Anyways, I'm Fast Lawyer. This has been my review for the Seventh Guest VR. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of the video.
My, Miss Martine. The things I've seen. You and your little lackey.
Out of my way, wino.
I'm as sober as an ice cream soda on New Year's Eve. What are you hiding?
I said move. Oh, you don't have the guts, old hag.
I'd rather be an old hag than a dead whore.